stars. In those days, we saw in his face the face of all America. Hello, I'm Clint Eastwood. Tonight we want to pick up on the trail that led to this street and beyond. For in telling Coop's story, we're telling more than the story of a man. We're also telling something about all of us who shared this century with him. What we loved, what we laughed at, admired, feared, and sometimes where we went wrong. For over 35 years and 95 movies, Coop was every man raised to flashpoint.
River Clipper's saying goodbye to you, man. Now you're going to have 3 long days of this prairie clipper.
But tomorrow's Sunday. Do we ride on Sunday?
Well, there's no Sunday west of Junction City. No law west of Hayes City, and no God west of Carson City.
Coop was a Westerner, born and bred, plain and simple, and proud of it. He always rode the high, wide country handsomely. On screen and off, he tried not to stray far from it. He rode into town the same way he rode the range, confidently. The towns mean people, and people mean trouble. That always seemed to surprise Coop, not the rest of us, though. Out there in the dark, in the theater, we were just waiting for trouble, for the classic rituals by which the Westerner restored righteous order to his world. These tests required courage and honor and many manly skills. But what they never really seemed to require was a lot of talk.
I'm sorry. What you got to do, you got to walk in kind of unsmiling. You got to look like you're somebody and act like you're somebody. Like you can take care of yourself no matter what happens. Can I get by?
10. Up 10.
I call.
Well, who's talking to you?
I'm talking to you, Tramper.
When I want to know anything from you, I'll tell you, you long-legged son of a...
You want to call me that? Smile.
That old soft spot, eh, Ben?
Even Ace had one, Joe.
That was Ace's mistake.
stern and moral man of the West was also something else. A little boy at heart.
Hey, fire engine! Gee, that was a pet. We're going to have one like that in Mandrake Falls pretty soon with a siren, too.
What were little boys ideally made of in a more innocent America? Well, innocence, of course. And an irrepressible desire to make mischief, especially in marbled halls. Taking your medicine was not something you ever took lightly. An unromantic reality was to be avoided at all costs. This little boy was born Frank James Cooper, May 7th, 1901, in Helena, Montana. His parents, Charles and Alice Cooper, were English immigrants, ambitious and aspiring. They prospered. Charles became a lawyer and a state Supreme Court justice, and he gave his younger son his first beloved steed. Coop's first school had just one room. His parents built it on the ranch they bought when he was 5. It was on the 7-bar-9 spread that he formed his passion for the outdoors. With his older brother Arthur, Coop was taken to England when he was 10. They were placed in Dunstable, a public school. Coop hated his 3 years there, especially the Latin. Later, Coop spent 2 years at Grinnell College in Iowa. By this time, he wanted to become a commercial artist. He had started sketching when he was 15. In college, his interest in art quickened and deepened. Intending to enroll in art school, he left Grinnell in his 2nd year. But visiting his parents in Los Angeles, where they had moved, he found work writing in westerns. People began to notice the handsome new kid in town. Clara Bow, for instance. And Lupe Valdez, lovers as well as co-stars. This phase of Coop's life was summed up in an early talkie by another co-star, Charles Lawton.
Must be a happy thing to look like you do.
In 2 years, he had a studio contract and leads opposite stars like Florence Vidor. The silent camera caught his sexiness, his likability, and his unpretentiousness. Lilac Time was one of the 20 silent films he made in 4 years. He was given a new name to match his new career. Gary was borrowed from his agent's hometown. One of his strongest appearances was one of his shortest, as a doomed flyer in Wings. It won the first Academy Award for Best Picture.
I suppose women love you.
Did you miss me, sweetheart?
So much, Dolly. Oh, Dusty. You're an angel in leather. You're terrific. You're gigantic. You're breathtaking.
Melody, ride as hard as you can and don't stop for nothing. Goodbye.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Eventually, he would learn to speak up.
I've got every respect for womankind. But back in Texas, it's the men who wear the pants. I was up here wearing mine. Now you come along starting trouble. Cutting up didos, acting downright low-court.
What have I done? You arrived on your date 2 days
And then
ago.
what? Screeching out of hotel windows, peaches and champagne in the middle of the day. Pulling the Sleeping Beauty act. Sashaying out telling the doggonedest mess of lies. Say, you planning to keep this up?
Oh, yes, I've thought of the most wonderful things. It's going to be better and better all the time.
I don't give a hang what you do as long as you keep your nose out of my affairs. I can be nagged by women, I can be fooled by women, and I can be coaxed by women, but no woman's going to run me. So you just pin back those pretty little ears of yours and take heed of what I'm saying.
Julie, I think that even when I marry someone else, I'll always love you best.
When he added strength to charm in the 30s and 40s, Coop became someone he had never expected to be. He became one of the movie's, one of the world's great romantic figures. From the This was the hat he wore most comfortably, and ordinary Americans.
Well, now I've seen everything.
The film Frank Capra's Mr. Deeds Goes to Town. Longfellow Deeds, common man. Gary Cooper, common man. The fit between role, actor, and situation is perfect. In the middle of the Depression, Mr. Deeds has just inherited unexpectedly $20 million. It's a test. Can the common man live within the most common American dream and keep his integrity, his virtue, and his sanity intact? Well, it was Gary Cooper's job in those days to show us that he could. And with this picture, Coop began to be something more than just a movie star. People now began to see him as the personification of the American ideal. The common man speaking plainly to a world that seemed to have lost touch with common sense.
If America is wise, it won't ever mix in European affairs.
But sometimes we get dragged in, and then, of course, we have to go through with it.
You can't underestimate America. That would be a foolish thing to do. It's a big country.
6'3".
Just a second. Mr. Brandon.
Yes?
I am the Marquis de Loisel.
How do you do? I'm very glad to have met you.
Well, don't you know who I am?
Well, you just told me a marquis. That's somewhere between a count and a duke, isn't it?
I wrote to you about a business proposition.
Well, I get 100 business propositions a day. What did you say your name was?
De Loisel, Loiselle.
Oh, Mr. Loisley. Sure, I remember.
I don't like you to interfere. Why you help my enemy?
I'd do anything I could to give you a kick in the pants. To my jaundiced eye, you're a social disease. I don't like your disposition, I don't like your friends, I don't like your politics, and I don't like your hat. Your faithful dozen may stick to you, but you're still a small noise at the end of a parade.
I have a great destiny.
So have I. But mine's tied up with millions of people. Yours is tied up with yourself and the power of machine guns. Your belief is in your own very limited self. Mine is in people. One day they'll all walk on earth, straight, proud, men, not animals, with no fear of hunger or poverty. That's not so bad to die for, sweetheart.
There was always this irony to contend with. His success playing the common man permitted Coop himself to live in uncommon luxury. In 1933, he married Veronica Balfe, better known as Rocky. She had wealth and social position. Theirs was an enviable life. Maria, their only child, was born in 1937. The Coopers helped make skiing at Sun Valley fashionable when the new resort opened. The family returned year after year. It was a way to escape Hollywood, a way for Coop to stay in touch with the hills of home. Ernest Hemingway was their Sun Valley neighbor and a lifelong friend. Coop could outshoot Hemingway, which sometimes irritated the highly competitive writer, but Rocky could outshoot them both. These home movies accurately reflect the privileged but unpretentious private life of a very public man. By the late 30s, Coop had a contract with an independent producer, which permitted him to freelance. A decade earlier, he had earned $50 a week in movies. Now the IRS announced he was the highest paid man in America. In a way, he had become a real-life Mr. Deeds. Except no one accused him of being crazy, which is what the big city slickers said Longfellow Deeds was. His insanity hearing is the climax of the film.
Hey, all you fellas up there. All those who applied for a farm, stand up. See all those fellas? They're the ones I'm trying to help. They need it. Mr. Cedar and that Mr. Semple don't need anything. They've got plenty. It's like I'm out in a big boat and I see one fellow in a rowboat who's tired of rowing and wants a free ride, and another fellow who's drowning. Who would you expect me to rescue, Mr. Cedar, who's just tired of rowing and wants a free ride, or those men out there who are drowning? Any 10-year-old child will give you the answer to that. All right, fellas, thank you. Sit down.
If this man is permitted to carry out his plan, repercussions will be felt that will rot the foundation of our entire governmental system. It's an insult to our intelligence to sit here and listen to the childish raving.
Will please permit Mr. Deeds to finish?
But, Your Honor...
Sit down. Anything else, Mr. Deeds?
No. Yes. There's just one more thing I'd like to get off my chest before I finish.
Proceed.
Thank you, Your Honor.
Meet Mr. Deeds' dark double. Meet John Doe. Another Cooper Capra everyman. These people are little people. Good, honest souls joined with John Doe in a mass movement whose goals are simple fellowship and common decency. John Doe has discovered that they are being used, exploited by a fascist-minded press lord. John Doe cannot be permitted to tell the truth.
My name is D.B. Norton. You all know me. I accuse this man of being a faker. I spend a fortune backing this man in what I believe to be a sincere and worthy cause, just as you all did. And now I find out it's nothing but a cheap racket cooked up by him and two of my employees.
That's a lie. Listen,
Don't believe what... This man had no intention of jumping off the top of a building. He was paid to say so. Do you deny that?
That's got nothing to do with it.
Were you paid for it, or weren't you?
Yes, I was paid, but there
And what about the suicide note? You didn't write that either. What difference did you write it or didn't you?
No, I didn't write it.
Now, you bet your life you didn't.
Listen, folks, it's a fact that I didn't write the letter.
There, you see, he admits that you're a fake, John Doe. For what you have done to all these good people, they ought to run you out of the country. And I hope they do it.
Please, listen, folks. Now that he's through shooting over his face, I've got a couple of things to tell you about...
John Doe's a fake!
They can't hear me. This thing's not working. Ladies and gentlemen.
The common man does not triumph here. He is mocked, scorned, abused. It is a brave warning about how easily ordinary folks can be misled and manipulated as a mob. Trench Warfare, World War I. Recreated by director Howard Hawks on the eve of World War II. Alvin York was one of the Great War's great heroes, the first historical figure Coop ever played. He was another simple man, a poor hill farmer in Tennessee. Like most Americans, he wanted most of all to be left alone. Plow his fields, think his thoughts, and above all, worship his God. For Alvin York's conversion, which we witnessed a few minutes ago, was a profound one. So was the conflict between the call of his religion, which enjoined him not to kill, and the call of his country, which insisted he serve in a dangerous hour. This was a conflict easily understood by most Americans in 1941 when Sergeant York was released. What made the conflict more vivid for him was this. It was a crack shot.
You better sight 'em mighty fine, Alvin. That there's the last turkey.
In battle, instinct triumphed over principles. Though Sergeant York always said he killed in order to save more lives than he took, he was the kind of hero we like best. An unexpected one. And a modest one.
They're watching them, Joe. Beg your pardon, sir.
Yeah?
We all got some prisoners. Can we be leaving them here?
Mm-hmm. Put them right over there. Wait a minute. How many have you got?
Well, I done counted 132 heads, sir.
We haven't room for that many here. Take them back up the line.
Yes, sir, but...
But what?
Well, sir, we can't find our outfit, and we tried to drop them off 2 other places, and there ain't but only 8 of us to handle them.
You should have brought more men.
But that's all there were of us, sir.
You mean to say that you and 7 others captured all that bunch?
Yes, sir. And we'd kind of like to get rid of them.
Sergeant York became the most decorated hero of World War I. Gary Cooper won his first Oscar underplaying him. His next role was a stretch for Cooper. To play Lou Gehrig, the pride of the Yankees, the right-hander Cooper had to learn to be a lefty. For the first time, his heroic figure was touched by tragedy. It would not be the last. Here stands a bridge. It's deep behind fascist lines in the Spanish Civil War, and it must be destroyed or the great Loyalist offensive will fail. So Ernest Hemingway imagined in his novel, For Whom the Bell Tolls. It's said, too, that he imagined Robert Jordan, the American volunteer who must dynamite the bridge, as a man very much like his friend, Gary Cooper. Coop would play the character based on his character when the novel was filmed in 1943.
Now they can't stop us ever. She's going on with me. Yes, right.
During the war, Coop traveled far and wide, entertaining American soldiers. Some of what they knew about courage they had, of course, learned at the movies from stars like Gary Cooper. A movie hero's enemies ran toward the exotic.
Come now, gentlemen. Must I proceed to these absurd and unpleasant extremes? Little bamboo slivers. But when they're driven under the fingernails and lighted, we find them very effective.
His trials naturally tended toward the melodramatic. There was always the distressed damsel in desperate need of rescuing. Old-fashioned movie heroes never lost a fight, no matter how unsportsmanlike the villain's conduct. When he leapt into action, he never measured the consequences or counted the odds against him. All in all, it was a gloriously improbable life. After the war, Coop, like a lot of us, lost his heroic stride. As Good Sam, he almost undid himself in trying to do good for others.
I'm sorry. What was that? I think she was running down there very fast. I thought she wanted to get in the bus.
Coop was summoned from the set by the House Un-American Activities Committee. He was a so-called friendly witness at their investigation of Hollywood communism.
What is your present occupation?
An actor.
As he so often had in movies, he played innocent.
Can you tell us some of the statements or that you may have heard at these gatherings that you believe are communistic?
Oh, I don't know. I've heard people mention that, well, perhaps this would be a more efficient government without a Congress.
A fair-minded conservative, he was embarrassed by this company. Coop returned to work, to hard labor, really, in the Fountainhead, and to the central crisis of his life. For the young woman striding into this scene also stole into his heart, and the film radically reformulated his screen character. Howard Rourke was really an architect, a genius making a simple living by choice. Better to work like this than to compromise his ideals and his visions. But there, the resemblance to anyone Cooper had ever played before ended. There was nothing common mannish or Cooper-esque about Howard Rourke. In fact, he despised everything those figures stood for. Collectivism, he called it. Instead, he would speak for pure selfishness. It was very confusing. The values that had sustained us in the Depression and during the war, well, they were now in question. So were the kind of movies that had sustained Coop's career. In a complicated world, it was no longer easy to be a good man. Coop was 47. Patricia Neal was 22 when they met. Their affair would shatter both their lives. Coop would abandon his family for her, and their romance would consume 3 often anguished and guilt-ridden years. On screen, their love scenes were incomprehensibly violent.
Why didn't you come to set them up?
I didn't think it would make any difference to you who came. Or did it, Miss Franco?
Look at history. Everything we have, every great achievement has come from...
The philosophy was just plain incomprehensible.
Every horror and destruction came from attempts to force men into a herd of brainless, soulless robots without personal rights, without personal ambition, without will, hope, or dignity. It is an ancient conflict. It has another name: the individual against the collective.
Adapting her own bestseller, Ayn Rand ended her screenplay triumphantly. In life, things would not work out so neatly for her stars. The note on which The Fountainhead concluded, a high, soaring note of romantic fulfillment, would elude them. In the years after The Fountainhead, Coop's work, like his life, lost direction.
Why are you stopping?
It's no good. I've got to go back, Amy.
Why?
They're making me run. I've never run from anybody before.
Then don't go back, Will.
I've got to. That's the whole thing.
It was not until 1952 and high noon that he found redemption. This is the depot at Hadleyville. Down these tracks, at high noon, a train will come. And on it will be a gunman named Frank Miller, determined to have his revenge on the man who once put him in jail, Sheriff Will Kane. Miller's old gang is waiting to help him. wants to come to Will Kane's assistance.
I need help.
A mighty brave man, a good man. He didn't have to come back here today. And for his sake and the sake of this town, I wish he hadn't.
There's a limit how much you can ask a man. I got a wife and kids. What about my kids?
Go on home to your kids, sir.
Look, this is just a dirty little village in the middle of nowhere. Nothing that happens here is really important. Now get out.
There isn't time.
Come on out. Come out of your friend here and get it the way Pierce did.
High Noon offered a metaphorical message to America in the 1950s. It said we must not withdraw passively in the face of evils like McCarthyism. It insisted that the entire community is obliged to join in combating them. But High Noon was something else, too. For the first time in movies, a community saw the hero not as a savior to be welcomed, but as a threat to be shunned. For delivering this message almost wordlessly, and through the eloquence of his eyes and gestures, Coop won his second Oscar. He also returned to his best self. He reinforced the movie's theme by publicly defending its writer when he was attacked by witch hunters. Yet from this moment on, the American hero was a changed man. Often as not an outcast, often as not by his own choice.
Colonel William Mitchell, the court in closed session, and upon secret written ballot, finds you of all specifications and the charge guilty.
In Springfield Rifle, he faced public degradation as a coward.
Conduct the prisoner through the gate.
Mob Rule sentenced him to the hanging tree. In Robert Rawson's They Came to Cordura, he played a man everyone, including himself, believed to be a coward, until he discovered the true meaning of bravery. In Friendly Persuasion, something of what Coop had been and meant shone forth anew.
Yes. He's not urging thy horse.
Well, not urging, Eliza, just encouraging him, Mike.
Director William Wyler helped him recapture something of his old boyishness and sweetness.
Oh, madam, you just wait until you hear your husband when he seats himself at this console. You know, you are married to an artist.
Sheriff, I forbid thee to have this instrument.
Forbid, Eliza?
For thy own sake, Jess, I forbid.
Eliza, when thee asks or suggests, I'm like putty in thy hands, but when thee forbids, thee is barking up the wrong tree. Come on, Quigley.
In the 50s, which were his 50s, the great international star became a great international traveler. In this period, he was beset by restlessness, by loneliness, and by illness. Though he often joined royalty for purposes of mutual bedazzlement. His return to his family marked the beginning of his life's last contented phase. Now the Coopers seemed to go everywhere together. Eventually, he embraced his wife and daughter's faith, though he never turned his back on Hemingway's values. He presented his new friend, Picasso, with a six-shooter and taught him how to use it. He joined his old friend Jack Benny on his television show in 1958.
Johnny kissed the teacher. He's a bird. He's a bird. He's a teacher's pet now. He's a dog. What he wants he gets now. What a dog. He's a bird dog. He even made the teacher let him sit next to my baby. He's a bird dog. Yep. Gary, I gotta say one thing. You've got a lot of guts.
This was Coop's last appearance as host of a television history of the Real West. He was terminally ill and in great pain when he made it.
The Real West. It lasted only 40 years, and then it was finished. An old-timer said it best. It's big and pretty now, all right, and I helped build it. But by damn, wouldn't it be fun to tear it down and start all over again?
But he never complained, for this was important to him, this tribute to the traditions that had formed him. The world into which Gary Cooper was born had virtually vanished by this time. The Hollywood, which he had been such a dominant figure, had changed beyond recognition. In his last years, Coop seemed old before his time. There was one gallantry left to him, a quiet passing marked by fond farewells. He called up his friend Hemingway, who was also ill, and said, "I'll beat you to the barn." Of this, the world knew nothing until the night of April 17th, 1961, when James Stewart accepted an honorary Academy Award for Coop, who could not quite control his emotions.
Coop, I'll get this to you right away. And Coop, I want you to know this, that with this goes all the warm friendship and the affection and the admiration and the deep respect of all of us. We're very, very proud of you, Coop. All of us are tremendously proud.
Coop died a month later. There was a deep sense of loss at his passing, and the passing of a time when perhaps people guarded their emotions more closely, spoke of them less easily, but felt them no less deeply.
Goodbye, Mrs. Meredith! Goodbye, Jim! Hey, buddy!
Gosh, I got a lot of friends.
His was a legacy of images. As the years turned, they seemed more and more like fragments of a half-forgotten dream. Soon living memory will have no claim at all upon them. They will belong entirely to that larger dream we call history.
Gary Cooper, American Life, American Legend.